my name is Dube-Lockhart, and this is my presentation on stability and mobility of the upper extremities. Today we're going to be exploring several different exercises that look at the shoulder girdle and the shoulder joint. The first that we're going to look at is for stability of the shoulder girdle, and what I've chosen to present is the scapular push-up. This is a closed kinetic chain exercise, which means that the distal portions are not free to move in space. They are affixed to, in this case, the ground. It is the rotational portion of this movement occurs on the transverse plane about the vertical axis. It includes two phases. The first phase is a protraction or an abduction, abduction. This is the concentric phase of the exercise in which the scapula is moved laterally and anteriorly along the chest wall. And phase two is a retraction or an adduction phase. This is the eccentric phase of the exercise in which the scapula is moved medially and posteriorly along the chest wall. The muscle groups in the concentric phase are mainly the serratus anterior, which is the prime mover, and other muscles involved include the pectoralis minor and subclavius. This exercise really focuses in on the shoulder girdle as a whole. And you moved it too fast. Sorry, I screwed you up. Okay, I'm just gonna let it run. We're gonna start over. I needed to go back and read that, and I didn't get to. Okay. Hi, my name is Dube-Lockhart, and this is my presentation on stability and mobility of the upper extremities. We're going to be looking at several different exercises today that explore the shoulder girdle and the shoulder joint. The first of which is the scapular push-up, which is going to explore stability of the shoulder girdle. This is a closed kinetic chain exercise, the rotational portion of which occurs on the transverse plane about the vertical axis. It includes two phases, a protraction phase or an abduction phase. This is the concentric phase of the exercise in which the scapula is moved laterally and anteriorly along the chest wall. And then phase two is a retraction or an adduction phase. This is the eccentric part of the exercise in which the scapula is moved medially and posteriorly along the chest wall. The muscle groups in the concentric phase are specifically targeting the lower scapular stabilizers. So the serratus anterior is the prime mover, and other muscles involved include the pectoralis minor and the subclavius. So I'll just demonstrate that really quickly. What we'll do is get down into a plank position. You can do this in tabletop as well as in an adapted push-up, but for our purposes we'll do the plank. And we're just going to protract that scapula, moving it away from the midline, and retract it back down. Protract and retract. So unlike a traditional push-up, this movement is really happening in the scapula as opposed to the bend of the elbows. Our next movement is for stability of the shoulder joint. We're going to do bent over flies with hand weights. This is an open kinetic chain movement, the rotational portion of which occurs on the transverse plane about the vertical axis. This movement also occurs in two phases. There is the extension or the abduction phase, in which the humerus moves horizontally away from the midline of the body, and then the flexion or the adduction phase, in which the humerus moves back towards the midline. The muscle groups in the concentric phase are the deltoides posterior, which is the prime mover, deltoides anterior, and the deltoides medialis, the infraspinatus, and the teres minor. The scapular movement will also cause rotational movement in the sternoclavicular joint and the acromioclavicular joint. So we'll just do that really quickly. For this, we're going to give a bit of a bend in the knees, and we're going to bend at the elbows as well. And what we're looking for here is raising up to the side so that the weights and the arms are about horizontal to the floor. We can adduct that back down, abduction and adduction. And finally, we have an exercise for mobility of the shoulder girdle and the shoulder joint. This is a paired movement of the shoulder girdle and shoulder joint. We're going to do the lateral raise with hand weights. This is an open kinetic chain exercise as well. It occurs on the frontal plane about the sagittal axis. This movement also occurs in two phases, the abduction, abduction phase, which is a concentric phase of the exercise where there is an upward rotation of the scapula and an abduction of the humerus. And then we have the shoulder adduction phase, which is the eccentric part of the exercise during which the humerus moves back towards the midline. The muscle groups in the concentric phase of this activity Target the supraspinatus, the deltoids, and the upper pectoralis major in the shoulder joint, and the serratus anterior, middle and lower trapezius, the levator scapula, and the rhomboids in the shoulder girdle. And so we'll pick up our hand weights one more time, and we're just going to abduct away from the body and adduct back towards abduct and adduct. So those are our 3 exercises exploring stability and mobility in the upper extremities. Thank you very much. Was it faster?